Hello and welcome to what is like to be a rather emotional episode of the Triathlon Devs YouTube channel today. Yesterday it was World Suicide Prevention Day. Today I'm going to share my own personal journey on how triathlon has helped transform my life after an attempted suicide earlier this year. Join me as I open up about my own mental health struggles this year, the challenges that I faced, and how the sport of triathlon, along with a very supportive network of friends and family and therapists, have helped rebuild my life again. This story isn't just about triathlon, it's about the resilience, the recovery, and the importance of mental well-being. Whether you're an athlete, either yourself or someone you know is suffering from mental health issues, or you're just looking for some inspiration, I hope this story resonates with you. If you or someone that you know is struggling with mental health, please be reassured that you're not alone. Let's together try and break the stigma about mental health. I'm going to post some links in the comments to some national and local organisations that you might find of some use if you or someone you know is struggling from mental health issues. The 10th of September was World Suicide Prevention Day, and I wanted to do something to mark that day. When I counted back, it was 245 days since the day that I attempted to take my life. And so to mark that, I've decided today to do 245 minutes of exercise, 1 minute for every day that I've survived and thrived since then. For those of you that can't do the maths quick, that equates to 4 hours and 5 minutes. I'm going to do 2 hours of cycling on Zwift this morning, an hour at the pool later, and then I'm going to do an hour of walking later on this afternoon, hopefully joined by some friends and colleagues. The plan was to start this at 6:30 in the morning, get a fair amount of the cycling done before I took Amelia to school, but I was awake at 4:30 this morning. So it is now 5 a.m. I've decided to get up and crack on with it. So let's go. I might be able to get this 2 hours of Zwifting done before Amelia even wakes up. Sprint segment coming up. And there we have it, my first 130 minutes done on Zwift. As you know, I'm a bit OCD when it comes to this. I'm at 37.9 miles, so I can't possibly stop at 130 minutes. So I'm going to carry on till this, there we go, takes over to 38 miles. So what is my mental health story then? Get yourself settled with a cup of tea, this is going to be a long one. I've suffered with PTSD for about 15 years, and I've battled with self-harm on and off during that journey. When I think about it now, that's when I actually took up triathlon training. I used to be a county badminton player, but that relied on other people for me to train with. So I took up triathlon as one, being a sport that was easily accessible. I could do it whenever I wanted to. I wasn't having to rely on other people. Also, I could sort of train every day because I could alternate muscle groups. So if my legs were absolutely killing, I could still go out and do a swim. I used to dissociate a lot, which is where your mind is kind of not really there. I would just kind of glaze over and I'd go back into the incident that had happened. So I'd dissociate a lot and I'd have a lot of panic attacks. What I found that was exercise was a really good way of helping me bring me back round from those flashbacks and panic attacks and help ground me. And it also, because I had a lot of sort of excess anxiety and energy at that point, the exercise was a really good method for discharging that energy. I've had lots of therapy over the years and I've had a lot of ups and downs, but I'd had a really good period of about 6 or 7 years around the time that I'd had my daughter. And then out of the blue, nearly 3 years ago now, I was watching a TV programme and just out of absolutely nowhere, bang, my PTSD came back. And it was just like a fuse had been lit inside me. I went from having sort of flashbacks probably once a month to having 2 to 3 flashbacks every single day. This went on for about 4 months. I couldn't work, I couldn't socialise. There was times when I couldn't even get through the school gates to pick Amelia up from school. Looking back at it now, I had a complete breakdown, but didn't really realise that at that point. I had some amazing support from my family, from my friends, from my work colleagues. I had an amazing psychologist called Sarah. I was doing really well. My flashbacks were probably down to once a week. and I was referred for NHS EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprogramming, which is the gold standard for treatment for PTSD. It's about helping you process events. Went for the assessment, which I got accepted for EMDR, but unfortunately at that point, that assessment just absolutely ripped that plaster off me. I had an hour and a half assessment, kind of explained everything that had gone on for over the last 20 years that caused my PTSD. They said, yes, you can go on the waiting list. Thank you very much. We'll see you in 18 months' time. That was a really, really hard period for me. As the year went on, I started to spiral back into sort of my PTSD again, with regular daily flashbacks and anxiety and depression. My stress bucket was completely overflowing. I buried myself in work to try and distract myself. I was thinking more about self-harming. I just about got through Christmas for my daughter, and by the 31st of January, I just got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. In the end, it was something completely ridiculous that tipped me over the edge. And that quite often is what happens when it's mental health issues. I don't remember that much about that actual day, apart from the amazing Sarah taking me over to ED. Don't really remember my time in ED. I just remember her sitting there waiting with me to be seen. And then the next thing I do remember really is being discharged home from ED without any follow-up plan whatsoever. And that was really difficult for me because I'd cried out for help. I was in a very low place, and they'd just patched me up, made sure I was okay physically and sent me on my way. That was a really difficult time for me, for my family, for my friends. Some of my fairly close family didn't realise how bad things had got, so that attempted suicide came as a real shock, and that in itself brought a whole heap of emotions that were attached with that, with the hurt that I caused those around me. I absolutely hated myself for the thought that I was willing at that point to leave people behind, leave my daughter without a mum, leave my husband without a wife, and leave the rest of my close family behind. But that was the point that I'd gone to. And at that point, those factors weren't enough for me to keep me grounded and present and wanting to live. My family and close friends were absolute rocks to me during that point, and the ongoing support from my psychologist was completely invaluable. It took me a couple of months again before I could get back to work and get back to socialising and feel any worth for being alive again. Exercise played a really huge part in my life at that point, and it seems a bit weird to kind of acknowledge that it was the sport that kept me going in the end. It wasn't why I kept going, that was obviously for my family, but what it did is it gave me a structure. Not being at work, I didn't have sort of that normally daily routine, the reason to get up and get going, but I'd set myself this target last year of trying to qualify for the European Championships, and me being me, I like to try and stick to my plans. I could have just given in at that point, but having that training plan at that point, it was telling me what to do every day. I needed to be exercising every day at that point, otherwise I was going to be self-harming. So I had a structured training plan, and it told me exactly what I needed to be doing, what intensity, what intervals, what rest periods. I literally just had to read it and follow it, and that was a massive help to me. Having the pain cave set up at that point was absolutely vital for me. After I'd had a flashback, it was really helpful to have this kind of safe area to come to where I could either come on Zwift, I could go on the treadmill, I could lift some weights. If I wasn't able to concentrate, I wasn't risking going out on the bike and getting run over or anything like that with it, so I could exercise hard in a safe environment. A couple of months after the attempted suicide, I'd still was on the EMDR waiting list and probably had at least another 6 months, if not longer, to wait for that on the NHS. So I made the difficult decision to get EMDR privately. Now I was lucky in that we were fortunate enough to be able to do that, but at that point I was thinking, I'm not going to survive if I have to wait another 6 months for the NHS. That's been an absolute game changer for me. It's completely different therapy. It has slowly helped me to process some of those memories that cause my flashbacks, and has reduced the intensity of my flashbacks. I'm still in that therapy now. I think I've probably had about 30 sessions. I've seen a really big improvement with it. I would say I'm getting back to a relatively normal life, whatever a normal life is. I've been back at work for a long time now. I've actually taken on a couple of different jobs in the last year after doing the same job for 20 odd years. I've decided to make some lifestyle changes and had a changing career. So I'm kind of like a month into a new job again, and I'm really enjoying the challenges that brings to me. I've been vlogging, apart from the odd comment that I made after I'd had a bit of a gap in filming in January. Most of you probably weren't even really aware that I'd had any major mental health issues, despite being a relatively good mum and wife. Hopefully, Mark and Amelia might disagree on that one. So I'm still in therapy now. I've still got a long way to go. But I do feel that the therapy and the triathlon training has absolutely helped me get my life back on track again, obviously with the support of my friends and family. I've not been that open about how serious my mental health struggles have been to the wider the world. A lot of people know that I've suffered with PTSD and that I've had a lot of problems in the past. I think part of the reason I wanted to do this challenge and this episode is because a lot of people don't expect these kind of things to happen to people like me. From the outside, I'm a well-respected healthcare professional in a very senior position. I've got a YouTube channel, I've got a family. People think that I've got it sussed. I've got quite an outward, confident appearance. And I think people don't expect to see people like me suffering so seriously with mental health. Mental health does not discriminate. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it can attack anybody at any time. And I think the more open we are about it, then the more chance we have of helping other people who are in the same position. So my idea in this last 24 hours, it's been a bit crazy to go a bit public with my mental health battles and announce my 245-minute challenge. But yeah, it is out there in the open. I do feel very vulnerable for doing this. But I'm hoping that if I can just make one person have one conversation about their mental health that stops a downward spiral, then it's going to be worth it. So I'm going to stop now before this ends up into a 6-hour YouTube episode. It is just gone 9:30 in the morning. I've got an hour before I need to go out and do my swim. So I'm going to go get a quick shower, have a bit of food, and I will see you down at the pool. Catch up with you later. All ready for stage 2? Let's crack on, get an hour swimming done. See you shortly. That is my swim leg done. I've just done 1 hour 2 minutes, 3,000 metres, just really nice and steady, 120 lengths, and it's just worked out at like 154 per 100 yards, so just nice and steady. It is 12:37. I've got 23 minutes now to get round to work, get a bit of lunch, and get ready to meet a couple of people to do the walk. Right, let's crack on. Hopefully the weather seems to be holding off at the minute. We'll see whether that lasts or not. See you shortly. Just added another 30-minute walk to my total. A couple of my colleagues from work, Sam and Craig, they popped along to join me for a lap. Thankfully, they've just about managed to get back to the office before it started raining. Did forecast rain for this time, so I've been quite lucky. It is raining a bit at the minute, but I think the worst of it is going to pass round me, so I'm optimistic. Anyway, I've done half an hour, so it means I've got less than 30 minutes left really, because I've built up a bit of a buffer of about 10 minutes. But I've decided, because I'm on my own, I'm going to go and do a run for 30 minutes as well, just to finish it off. So we will get cracking and see how wet we get. It's not going to rain, it's going to skirt round us. Those were Craig's last words as he disappeared off to his nice dry office. Thanks a lot, mate. Is me done for the day. I think it works out at about 253 or 254 minutes in the end. Did 2 hours 13 on Zwift, 62 minutes in the pool, then a 28-minute walk and a 31-minute run. I'll add that up to see how many miles that comes to. I don't really know, not really bothered to be honest. It was more about doing the time today. So I'm glad I've done it. Had a little bit of company for one lap of the res, but did the rest of it on my own, which seems quite fitting to be honest. Right, I am going to go home, get a shower, get some more food, and have a little reflect on how it's gone.